Now let's get into the games that we sort of care about here, starting with Broncos 21, Chiefs 19. The Broncos now have won 8 straight games. They are in the driver's 22, Broncos 22, 22, Chiefs 19 here. The Broncos now are in the driver's seat for the AFC West. The Chiefs are in a little bit of a trouble spot to even get into the dance at this point. They got to really go on a run here. My takeaway from this game, Daigle, was that the Broncos ancillary players stepped up. Troy Franklin, clutch reception to put them in the position to kick the game-winning field goal. Pat Bryant, their rookie receiver, who I want to see more and more of, he had some nice plays here. The only ancillary player who did not step up was the guy that everybody wanted, which was RJ Harvey in the backfield.
And the last time we saw the Broncos against the Raiders, everyone, one, wants to forget the last time they saw them, but two, it was still Pat Bryant stepping up as the team's second, third wideout. A big 43-yard catch led them in receiving yards against the Raiders, I believe. But again, right here to come out as a developing rookie, second half of the season, 5 catches, 82 yards. And for Troy Franklin to really continue separating himself from Cortland Sutton in particular over the last month, we are seeing different players emerge for Denver. In this win streak, when you say that out loud, it seems crazy because we've seen Bo Nix's performance against the Texans and again against the Raiders in that time, but they're still getting the job done. So that's nothing I know to take away for fantasy, but like it's important that teams win these kind of games because that kind of chemistry and what you learn does matter as we push towards the playoffs here.
No doubt. Do you have any kind of concern about RJ Harvey at this point? 11 carries for him. Jaleel McLaughlin gets 6. Tyler Bidet is involved obviously in the passing down role. Like, is RJ Harvey somebody you can even consider starting at this point, even with J.K. Dobbins going on IR and is going to miss the rest of the season, unless the Broncos make the Super Bowl? I saw J.K. was insistent that if the Broncos make a Super Bowl run, he's going to get back for that. But for our purposes of fantasy football, he is done for the rest of the way.
To only outcarry Jaleel McLaughlin, who the team willingly healthy scratched for a lot of this year, 11-6 in favor of Harvey, still somewhat concerning, but we can also just chalk it up to Peyton shenanigans, as we maybe should have even expected coming into this game. So I comp RJ Harvey's outlook similar to Woody Marks, not the Marks this week that we may get into a bit, where he basically handled every single touch. But I do think it's just going to be a player where, depending on your format, depending how injured you are, how many buys you have, you still can start RJ Harvey, and you certainly don't want to give up on him just from this game because we still are projecting for the entire season. We still expect him as the best player in their backfield to emerge at some point, but obviously not the results that we all wanted in his first game here.
They're on bye in week 12, then they come back and get 2 really nice matchups in Washington and then in Las Vegas, Commanders, Raiders. And RJ Harvey did have a 61% snap share. He had like a 69%, I believe, running back touch share. 61% share of the running back rushes. So definitely pretty good role for him. You got to like that, I think. So I'm glad you were a little bit more optimistic there. On the Chiefs side of things, just not a great game from Patrick Mahomes, I think, in this one. Was definitely frazzled, thrown off his spot a couple of times, had some inopportune plays. Where are we at with the Chiefs at this point after, again, 45 pass attempts for 276 yards for Mahomes?
For Mahomes, it's concerning because everything we just said about Bo Nix, anyone who watched this game saw him outplay Mahomes. So we can still chalk that up to simply being the Broncos defense. You're on the road here. It's a division game. And that's what happens even when we talk about the Rams Seahawks. Wild things happen. Ask anyone in survivor pools in division games. It's okay whenever you get these blips on the radar. But as you said, for a 5-5 team with championship aspirations, I don't want to overreact because the Chiefs have done this before and then got to the postseason and wreaked havoc. But right now, I guess what is our concern level out of 10 for the Chiefs? 5, 6? Probably more, given that they're full strength than past years.
Yeah, I'd say at least a 6. I don't know. I mean, it's just like at some point it becomes a math problem because, I mean, there are some teams, if we pull up that playoff bracket, that maybe I don't feel so great about. Like somehow Jacksonville is still in the mix here. 6-4, big win from them today. We'll talk about it later. But regardless, at some point it just becomes a little bit of a math problem for them. They've got to start pulling out some of these games, and the schedule going forward for Kansas City. Again, they play Indianapolis in Week 12. Obviously, the Colts coming off a bye. Cowboys, Texans, Chargers. It's not until like Week 16, Titans, that I'm like, all right, that's when I'm definitely taking Kansas City. I think all of those will be close competitive games. So obviously, again, from a fantasy perspective, this is a little bit of a boring team to talk about because you're probably starting Kelsey at tight end. You're definitely starting Rashee Rice, even though you didn't get a good game out of him here. But it's more about, are the Chiefs cooked from a playoff perspective? 76% of the people in our YouTube chat say yes, the Chiefs are cooked. They're a little bit more concerned than you are, Daigle. That's for sure.
I think people are just tired of talking about the Chiefs, and I don't blame them.
Fair enough.
We all know what's going to happen here. The Chiefs are going to get to the postseason. They're going to get points, and Patrick Mahomes will then do what he does with them, and they will win. If anything, the one fantasy narrative here is that we can drown out Rashad Smith moving forward. We're crossing our fingers for a little post-bye bump, but even without Isaiah Pacheco, again, no carries to Kareem Hunt's 100% of their running back usage in terms of carrying the ball. So nothing to see here.
Yeah, weird. 7th round running backs don't just come in and take jobs away from NFL veterans like crazy. I can't believe it, especially guys who used to be converted receivers. Okay, next game up here. Bears 19, Vikings 17. Season low 50% completion rate for Caleb Williams in this game. But Daigle, watching this one pretty closely, this is one of those days where you can point to both some Caleb misses and drops from the pass catchers. PFF logged Moore with one, Burden with one, and Durham Smythe with one this week. I think you could maybe give Burden a second one there. But good news on the Luther Burden side of things. He did supplant Olamide Zaccheaus for the first time as the top slot receiver on the team. He ran a route on over 60% of the dropbacks. Again, didn't result in a big day or anything, but season high 22 routes after besting his previous season high of 20. So a little bit of a shakeup in the Bears receiver room, but a rocky day overall for this passing game as a whole.
Still what we're hoping for, since I'm sure, as you even noted in reception perception, Luther Burden is a guy who really we're just waiting for the dominoes to fall correctly for, similar to Jalen Knoll, because when they've been on the field, they've proven they should be on the field more often. Luther Burden is actually top 5 in yards per out run so far, both from out wide and from the slot. He can win wherever you put him at. And so to even get a little bump in usage, I would hope it's trending towards him being usable, wide receiver 3 or flex for the rest of the season, but in particular when we get to the fantasy postseason. So some hope there.
Definitely some hope there. DJ Moore runs the most routes on this team, 83%. Had one crazy catch where he almost dropped it and then caught it kind of between his calves. But he sits on a 0.6 yards per route in this game, target on 10% of his routes. Just has like absolutely no role in this offense. Every week I feel like I get questions about, can I play DJ Moore or this person? What do I do with DJ Moore? I'm like, this is a guy you just, at this point, you can't even consider playing. And I think might be one of those tough name drops because he's a guy that is a big name, and it's his offense, I think, that is, despite a little bit of hiccups today, getting better. But again, he's somebody that is probably more of a roster clogger in redraft than anything else here.
And we want to be careful with sabotage drops this time of the year because we could have tried it a couple weeks ago with Alvin Kamara, who had 20 carries. We could have tried it this week with Deebo Samuel, who then led the team in receiving yards with a receiving touchdown in Berlin early Sunday morning. So we'll be careful, but is DJ Moore usable weekly? I agree with you. No, we should certainly pick our spots every single week.
On the Vikings side of this, I'll give JJ McCarthy credit for a really nice drive to take the lead in the end, which ultimately the Bears ended up getting their own field goal to win the game. But this, I think, was his worst outing so far. He is just so sped up. His footwork is a mess. I mean, Justin Jefferson was clearly frustrated, maybe with himself, but just generally throughout the game, clearly frustrated. The receivers were pretty out of it. I don't know, just not feeling great if I'm invested in the Minnesota Vikings passing game at all after the performance we saw from J.J. McCarthy. I know in his 5th start of his career, but still, this was a very, very shaky day for number 9 there in Minnesota.
Another poor performance. Again, just 5 starts, but we said the same thing, copy paste before, saying, just 4 starts. No worries. Yeah. Again, I'm certainly concerned about J.J. McCarthy moving forward. This may just be an issue where we go into the offseason hoping they do different things, but right now, really dragging everyone else down with him. T.J. Hawkinson has been droppable for over a month now. What we really lost was some big plays from Jordan Addison, who did have, like you said, a big drop, so kind of did this to himself. Mm-hmm. But even then, to have at least one turnover so far in every game McCarthy's had, that's the real bugaboo here and the key to really getting this team over the hump. So the Bears are the opposite end, where the Bears, unlike last year's Bears with Matt Eberflus, the Ben Johnson Bears find ways to win, even if it's not pretty. And that's what happened in this game.
Exactly. Well, good news for the Vikings passing game. They get the Packers in Green Bay next week, and then they get the Seahawks in Seattle in week 13. So the schedule does not get any better for this young quarterback that they are grooming here. Speaking of the Packers, that's our next game up here. Packers 27, Giants 20. Packers, good news, bad news. They get this game. They get this win. But Josh Jacobs was lost after 11 snaps due to injury. Schefter says it's not a season-ending injury. Okay. Well, I'm glad it's not season ending, but there's a big difference between is it good news or is it season ending? The Packers just can't stop losing their best players, man. Elton Jenkins on the offensive line, Josh Jacobs now, Tucker Kraft, obviously, Jaden Reed. Like, these are, again, their best players on offense other than their quarterback, Jordan Love, who is also injured at one point this game. I know everybody wants to be mad at Matt LaFleur, wants to call Jordan Love overrated, but I just can't keep hammering this point enough. Like, this offense has been so banged up throughout the course of the season.
It's been really rough, and I genuinely don't know what direction they go from here either. What are your thoughts on replacements here?
I mean, Emmanuel Wilson's been like the guy that's kind of stepped up. Chris Brooks had some moments today. I would guess Emmanuel Wilson's the guy who takes some burn here from Josh Jacobs. But this run game, and I don't know if it's because Jacobs has been hurt all year, but this run game has been a little mid all season long too. And I think LaFleur has been a little bit too stubborn to stick with it at times. That's one thing I think you can certainly criticize LaFleur on is the stubbornness and overcommit to the run game. But this unit has not been great because the offensive line and some of these investments like Jordan Morgan on the offensive line and Aaron Banks, who they paid a bunch of money to in free agency, those players have not worked out on the interior.
And it was in a pinch in place of Josh Jacobs, but at least we saw whenever he left the game, it was still Emmanuel Wilson who handled 100% of the running back carries, 93% of the snaps the rest of the way. So I think they go to him. But again, that was a short turnaround. They might have a different game plan moving forward. And as we continue waiting for one player to emerge, maybe at least we got Christian Watson continuing to get healthier now, a month straight active and making big plays here in this game as well.
Yeah, shout out to Christian Watson, snagged both of his end zone targets, one from Malik Willis, who did have to step in here for a moment in replacement of Jordan Love, but still snagged both of his end zone targets, ran around on over 70% of the dropbacks, did a little bit more movement between slot and outside today. I think that's encouraging. I just can't say enough of how impressed I've been with Christian Watson's play this year. We're still not even 12 months away from his ACL tear, which he tore this January, and he has played really well. Maybe not fully healthy Christian Watson just yet, but he's made some big plays in tight coverage, which is something at the start of his career I was a little critical of his work there, but he's certainly made some big plays this season, so that's been good to see from him. Meanwhile, on the Giants side of things, the internet's attempt to get me excited about this version of Jameis Winston was kind of a nothing burger. 0 touchdowns, 2 turnovers, 6-point YPA. I know, Daigle, I'm sorry for being the wet blanket here, but what am I supposed to get excited about the Jameis Winston experience on the Giants for? Isaiah Hodgins was back with the Giants catching passes today. There's nothing interesting from a receiver's perspective here.
Yeah, we know enough about the Jameis Winston experience, even just going to last year, that really the type of coverages that he's really struggled against is unsurprisingly zone coverage, which the Packers blend on 75% of their snaps because Jameis Winston is not a diagnoser. Jameis Winston sees you one-on-one and lights it up. That's why also he had success against the Broncos last year, but not Jesse Minter's Chargers, because it really just depends on the type of defense. So was not expecting much here for the Giants passing game. If anything, I leave even more upset than I thought I would be, because under Mike Kafka, we did get Devin Singletary goal line carries over Tyron Tracy. So just another backfield to be confused about for the rest of the year.
That's a great point. Yeah, Devin Singletary popping in touchdowns here. I would have thought, oh, he's a Dayball guy. He followed Dayball from Buffalo. I had the pit stop in Houston. Now he's in New York with the Giants. He'll go back to Tyron Tracy. Nope, Mike Kafka takes over. It's the Devin Singletary show. So hopefully Jackson Dart is back next week, and Jameis Winston can go back to aura farming every time somebody puts a camera in front of his face, because I don't really need to see him start another game this season.